right. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mauro Brigham. I'm happy to be hosting a new LifeSpace edition. It's been a few weeks. We've been very busy doing a lot of different events with AINB. For those of you who are not familiar, we are the Association of Interior Designers in Belgium. We organize events. We try to organize high-quality events, sharing information, experience, projects with interior designers. We also provide assistance of all kinds, legal, technical information. And last year, we started the LifeSpace sessions. And the LifeSpace sessions have been all about connecting with Belgium interior designers, also some international interior designers in Europe, but also connecting with the manufacturers and the artisans, so the people who actually make it happen and build the wonderful things that we design. So today we will be talking to Mathijs. I will introduce you in a second. And just before, I want to give a little word to Cooker, who is supporting this LifeSpace. They make filtered water taps. So they use a system with current filtering that basically takes care of purifying the water. No more buying plastic bottles for home or office or whatever. And you can also ditch the water heater, as these water taps have both functionalities, cold and warm. And now you see this beautiful table. It's probably a good time to ask Mathijs to come into our session, and I'll do it right here. Hello, Mathijs. Can you hear me well?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's really a joy to have you here. We're going to make acquaintance, know a little bit more about you, and share some of the images that can illustrate part of your work. Maybe first thing, why don't you give us an idea of how did you get to be working with wood, and what attracted you to this specific material?
Okay, I could already practice yesterday, so I'll try to do the same thing now. I graduated as a master in Japanese studies, and during this study, I went to Japan. That was already the second time I was there, and I was really blown away by how the houses were built, how they are used, and the aesthetics of it. Mm-hmm. So that's when I got actually in love with Japanese woodworking. And afterwards, when I graduated, I was lucky enough to go to Japan and learn from two different masters. Mm-hmm. Before I became self-employed or started my own business in 2015, I worked both in Japan as a carpenter and in Belgium / Europe. So that's a period of 5 years in which I got to polish my skill set and become better in woodworking.
And how intense was working in a Japanese environment day to day?
Apart from the weather in summertime, it was quite okay. I was already used to working with my hands before, but for me it wasn't too hard to adapt because I already knew Japanese society and the strictness of it. So it was okay. It was very learnful, and I took a lot of things I saw there and experienced there, and still use it today in my daily life workflow.
Mm-hmm. So you came back to Belgium, that was around 2015, right?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And how was setting up the business here? How fluent was that, and how fluid?
I was fortunate to be able to work with other carpenters in the beginning. So I had some time to get all the tools, get to know Belgium way of doing things, getting to know the materials better. So I had maybe this startup of 3 or 4 years, and then after that, most of the work I started doing was just completely by myself. And now I have a fully equipped workshop, and of course I keep learning every day, but I feel like I'm independent now, and that's a very nice feeling after 7 years of struggling to get where I got at the moment.
Yeah. So you created Matisu?
Yes, that's right.
How could you describe your in a few words your approach to interior architects, to architects, as a woodsman? How could you really frame your way of seeing things, or what Matisu proposes basically?
Yeah, well, I guess I'd take a look at the proposal or the proposition of what is wanted, and then I guess I'd start from what I know about wood to implement it on the design and see if there are any malfunctions or things that are maybe less possible with the way I think wood works, and then from there on, I guess if there are things that I do differently aesthetically, I would certainly not hold back to say this. But in the end, it's a collaboration, and I'm happy to get the design as much as to where it is intended within the limits of how you can use wood.
Mm-hmm. Do you maybe a characteristic of your work, from my understanding, is that you're working mostly or exclusively? Maybe you can help me with this, with solid wood.
Yeah, it's 97%, I guess, in solid wood. Yeah, that's correct. That's in all the work I do. That's like the main thread or thing I am specialized in.
Mm-hmm. And because I don't think everyone is acquainted with Japanese woodwork. What are the main differences with a more European approach, for example, or how companies are working, cabinet makers are working here in Belgium?
Technically, I guess it's kind of similar, except for, in my experience, Japanese carpenters, furniture makers, they use a lot more hand tools. So that's a big part of doing the craft over there. And then a very important aspect as well is the work ethics, I guess. It's how the customers are treated and what is important in the end. And yeah, that's of course getting a top product to the customer.
Mm-hmm. How the customers are treated. I think we mentioned in our little talk that the connection between architect and the builder and the client is very different from here.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
that's my impression too. I got the feeling that in Belgium, or maybe in the Western world, I don't really know. It's more of a competitive, or there is more skepticism between one and each other, and
distrust.
Yes, exactly. I've got the idea that in Japan it's more streamlined, and that it works smoother, at least in my experience.
And I guess it not only works smoother, but you must get better results if the different entities trust each other.
Yes, exactly, and that's when you get a really inclusive design, and you can do really amazing stuff. Not so difficult, but sometimes hard to streamline, as you say. And then when the streamlining goes smooth, then of course the product will be much more as intended, or you can step up the game and do things that maybe are not for granted, or you can think more out of the box.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So designers that work with you, what can they expect? They can expect advice on how to improve joints, how to improve construction details, or how the wood will react in a well, some of the wood reaction to some different types of furniture. You can also, I suppose, provide advice on how to improve the design of the.
Yes, exactly. It's my compressor. It will shut down in a second.
Okay. Okay, I thought it was on my side. No
Yeah.
problem.
Can you hear me a little bit, or is it very hard?
Yeah, I can hear you. You have to speak because it's.
It's a bad timing. I'll shut it down. Wait a second, please.
Okay. No problem. We can see here the detailing, or some of the detailing of the work of Matisu, which will keep on sliding further on as we recuperate Mathijs.
Sorry for that. I thought everything was under control.
No problem.
So to come back to your question, if that's okay.
Yeah, please.
As you mentioned, I start from the wood, what is possible, and of course a very high level to detailing, and I try just to get everything as streamlined as possible to ensure that in the end there are no, or as less as possible, things that are overlooked during the process. So it's always more difficult to fix something afterwards than try to tackle it at the beginning of the process.
Mm-hmm. And to which degree it's important for you to understand the context you are working on. So, are you okay with just receiving plans of what you have to build, or do you prefer to see the context to understand if you can improve the quality of the overall solution that you are bringing to the client? How does that work?
I prefer having knowledge of the context and having a contact with the client, but it's certainly not necessarily, because I think if I get plans of a design to execute, I can execute it, no problem. But of course, it's nicer to get a bigger picture and be part of the whole thing, and not just being somebody who makes something that is installed somewhere. But yeah, it's both jobs are, well, it's not that one is more equal than the other, but for me it's nicer to have the context, for sure.
So we are looking here at this external wall covering. Can you tell us a little bit about the variety of works you do?
Yes, I don't know whether or not it's clear, but underneath the wooden cladding there is this old Belgian farmhouse. You can, at the left side, you can see the tie beams sticking through the posts, and you got some braces. That's part of the restoration I did I helped to other carpenters. At the time I was starting my own business, so I was a freelancer for them, so I helped doing the restoration. And then after a couple of years, the customer asked me to do the outside cladding, the walls, and then the extension a little bit. And then they had the idea to use planks in the areas where you can see the planks, and then this I think 4x4 centimeter sticks posts on the overhang and the side of the house. Yeah.
Okay, and so that means okay, that you are working not only with this is the illustration of what you were saying, the wall cladding.
Exactly.
Yeah. And but you were also working in a smaller scale, furniture,
Yes, what you can see on the picture now is it's a part of a lamp. I was asked to fabricate the wooden part that goes into the brass piece, which then becomes a candelier, maybe that's a right word.
Yeah.
So it depends on what people want, but as we mentioned before, the main thing is the use of the solid wood.
Okay. Yeah. Indeed, it was. It's you really have to look at where the insertion is, and this is the holder, lamp holder, and in this case, your intervention was on the was the inside of the whole object, or actually the inside of
The wooden piece. The brass piece was fabricated by a light artist.
Okay.
Then the discs were fabricated by somebody else, and the design I think was from the guy who made the disc, I think. So it was a collaboration between three artisans to make the sculptural light.
Mm-hmm. And talking about collaboration, I think this is a project that you like particularly. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about this.
Yes, exactly. What you see here is the rounded door between bathroom and a small storage room that was fabricated in wood. This project, it's called Vis-a-Vis, and I was asked to work on it by an architect, Bart Lens, together with Frits Juris. That's so the three of us collaborated on this project. The main lines were set out by the interior architect and some parts by Frits, so the second guy. And then I could also make suggestions about certain things. For example, the doors. There was this question on how to make the curves, and then I suggested maybe we could use the wood in a different direction compared to the standing and the top and bottom pieces. So it was very nice to be able to discuss these things in advance, so we could really have a slick, full of details project. So it was very nice to be able to work on it.
Yeah, this looks amazing. Super detailed. And this is all in solid wood then?
The trimming is, but the panels, they aren't. They are veneered. It would be madness to do everything in solid wood. So.
Yes. I was looking indeed at the trimming. Yeah, indeed. And the image that we're seeing right now, is it the same project as the texture is feeling a lot more shiny?
Yes, this is. I should have mentioned it. This is when the painter was finished. So the interior architect chose for two finishes. One was this shiny finish, and the other one was more of a satin finish. So there's a contrast between the two finishes. Although it's the same wood, it looks differently because of the finish.
It's a place that you can one can rent out for to stay there, no?
Yes, exactly. I think you can spend the weekend there. It's in a town called Newport. It's close to the shore. Very nice place, and a very nice town as well. So it's if you can go in and have there a weekend, it will be very nice.
I think I will for sure. We also wanted to talk to you a little bit about tools. What do you use? What kind of tools you use? I mean, not only to work the wood, but also to conceptualize. And we stumble on the right image to comment on that.
Yeah. Yes, I use a lot of Japanese hand tool, of course, for the fabrication itself, and for the designing process, I use SketchUp. I guess most of you know this software. Yeah, it's a big part of my workflow because it allows me to build something before I actually build it. So most of the problems I encounter are already solved during the drawing time. So it saves me a lot of time, I guess, when not having to, like I mentioned earlier, having to fix errors that occurred due to not so good planning.
And when you receive this kind of technical documentation, I mean, three-dimensional documentation from designers or architects, and they are well modeled, do you is it a good base for you, or do you still need to start from scratch, or you use a different way of modeling to verify or potential problems in the making? How does it work?
Until now, I don't think. No, I did receive 3D files, but I guess I would already almost every time start on just remodeling it completely by myself to, as you say, get out designing flaws or just drawing flaws that are maybe not apparent at first sight, but that come out when you draw something or when I redraw it.
Okay, I see. Yeah, we're looking at different different things. Don't hesitate commenting if you want to on a detail or another.
Yeah. The former table in the one picture before this one.
Yes.
This is where I collaborated again with Fritz on the top, so the tabletop. He made the holders, I guess, for the top. But that's another example. He had an idea, and I proposed a wood species, and then because I'm all stoked about hand planing, he said, "Yeah, you can hand plane it, but do it roughly so you still see the planing marks." And that again is a process that we made it together, so we could like really say, okay, we're going to do it this way, not cut off the ends, and it's very nice to work like that because you can decide on just when you're building it, and that's a very nice workflow as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You had you talked to me about texture, how texture in buildings are becoming increasingly important. Can you develop a bit on this?
Yes. For example, the farmhouse we saw earlier in the picture, it was probably mainly built with hand tools only. And you can still see in the old beams and the old posts which tools were used. For example, axes, or even the type of axe you can see just by looking at the form of the cut, or whether or not it's sawn or not. And I think it's a very comforting thing to see something was made by hand by people, maybe not consciously, but certainly I think you can feel it. And texture is, I guess, it's probably hard to make it with a computer. It's probably not impossible. But I think something about the traces people leave behind building something that really resonate in how a space is interpreted, or how it is felt by the ones who are in the space.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's also the touch indeed can really change the perception of an object completely.
Yes,
or the way the light hits it, and the kind of reflection or lack of reflection that it makes.
Yes, exactly.
Mm-hmm. And in the works that you do, of course, you have commissions, but you also create sometimes some objects or some pieces of furniture.
Yeah.
Do you have a preference on the type of work that you do?
Yes and no. For example, when I was building the table, I was thinking, oh, I really like building this table. I wish I could do more of this work. But then when I'm doing something else, it feels nice to do the other work as well. So I'm not sure. I guess I like everything.
You like that way? Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess the doing different works doesn't make it boring or it keeps it challenging in a way, I guess. So I think it's okay for now.
Yeah, here again we're seeing some detailing on the preparation of the connections.
Yes.
This is the foot of a table, I guess.
Yes, exactly. What you can see here are, as you mentioned, the 4 legs. In this case, I wish I could point it out, but you can see that the legs are glued together out of 3 pieces. And they are glued in a way that once they are carved to form, that the straight grain, the quarter sawn grain or half sawn, I don't know, it's half sawn, is visible. So that's an aesthetics consideration I took into account to glue up these legs. So in the end, they would all look the same, and you would see the same texture drawing of the wood.
Mm-hmm. And this looks like a darker wood than the previous one. Is this the type of woods which you work with? Are they mostly European? Do you work with also more exotic wood? People come for you for a specific type of wood that you use, or not at all?
Not necessarily. I mostly work with local woods, European woods. Of course, North Europe and even maybe Russia, but that's still the Eurasia continent, I guess. I'm not sure. And I avoid trying working with exotic woods as African hardwoods. I guess they some of their characteristics are better for certain usages, but I prefer doing it with local wood. And for some wood, for some projects, it's really difficult to get the right local wood characteristic wise. So that's when I can use imported wood. For example, when you build these shoji, these Japanese sliding doors, it's very important to have stable wood, because it's the sections of the pieces are so thin that if something moves, then the door would jam, or you wouldn't be able to use it anymore. So that's when I do import wood, but then mostly it's from America.
Mm-hmm. And then how are you coping with the wood shortages that have been coming up now with the impact of COVID and the United States buying all the wood from all over the world? How did this impact your work and your clients also?
Yeah, until now it didn't really affect me, because I'm doing a rather big restoration project for which I don't have a lot of wood. And of course I work by myself, so don't have a really big output, so that's something useful as well. And because I use most of the time locally harvested wood, I guess it's easier to not get problems with it, because I think most of the supply struggles there are now is for sheet material or plywood. And I guess that's more of an international trade item. So I think, yeah, that's probably more difficult to get at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. We in many different materials we're having this we're hearing this from our from the suppliers, from the builders, also the contractors, and indeed it's been not only complicating the organization of the different work sites, but also pricing has been hit. Yeah, in some cases there has been huge impacts with the pricing, but okay, it's a good thing that you haven't been too much impacted, and like you were saying, you've been doing more restoration work lately, so I guess that also impacts.
Yeah, luckily, because I guess if I would have given a price for a certain work and prices, for example, of USB tripled now, then that would have serious consequences. But luckily, I'm not affected in that way.
Mm-hmm. Maybe before we quit ourselves, I wanted to ask you, because I'm a big fan of Japan, even if I just went only once there.
Yeah.
What else has inspired you in your work? The things that you've seen over there, and kind of really model or influences the way you work and the way you approach your work. Are there other things in Japan that you feel that kind of guide you in the way you work?
Probably not a surprise, but the striving for perfection is certainly something I really like, because in Japan I met some extraordinary people whose skill level was like godlike, well, in my eyes, and that's something I keep in mind and try to get closer to. So that's a fun aspect of doing what I do, is to set goals and try to reach them and keep learning and trying to keep getting better. So it's almost like I'm married to something or someone that just keeps me going and keeps me striving forward.
Fantastic. Do you keep you still have connections with your wood sensei over there? Do you plan to go see them? Do you still have this connection with them?
Yeah, it's been 2 years now, I think. So I'm very keen on going back to Japan to get my batteries recharged. I'm looking forward to see everybody again. But it's an interesting collaboration again, because the second teacher I had, he has a company, a rather big one. And it's interesting because he comes to Belgium to be influenced by Belgian design, and so it's a very fruitful friendship we have.
Fantastic. All right, Mathijs, thank you so much for having taken the time and going through your work. It was really nice. I hope to meet you personally in Brussels one of these days. You are working on a project on which I don't think we have images. Maybe closing off, you can tell us a little bit about that, because it also says something about the other work you do on restoration.
Yes, exactly. It's the first house Henri van der Velde designed and lived in. It was built late 19th century in Uccle. It's at that time it was a very modern house, because I'm not sure but I think it was one of the first houses which had a facade, then this not sure what it's called in English, this airspace, and then the interior wall. So it was a very healthy house, and working on it, it's really amazing how people 130 years ago had such accuracy and knew so much about good building practice. So it's very nice to learn from the house and learn from the people who build it and designed it. So it's very learnful as well.
Fantastic. That's I'll also try to get go have a look. We're going to put our your website address on the on the description of the interview. So thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Okay, so that was the interview of Matisu with Mathijs as interior architects. Detailing is so important in our work. It's really what makes the identity of what we design, what we conceive. So it's always very inspiring to be able to have to work with people who are looking for perfection and who really appreciate to go that extra mile and give that that extra quality that will make the project even more long lasting. So yeah. I will invite you for a next, of course, to see our next live space. We will be communicating on that soon. I hope you enjoy this, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.